Aloha, everyone. Welcome to this hybrid presentation and webinar. My name is Alberto Ricordi. I'm an extension agent with CTAHR Cooperative Extension. We are at the Urban Garden Center. Today is June 18, 2025. We are very fortunate to have Lynch with us, and she'll share with us her knowledge or presentation on Hawaiian ferns and call for propagators. This presentation will be recorded and available. So with that, I pass it to Kate.
Mahalo, Alberto. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here on this Wednesday afternoon. Thank you for your interest in the Hawaiian ferns, which brings us together. And a special shout out to all of you on Zoom, including a few friends and family members from the mainland who may be listening. I am Kay Lynch. As Alberto said, I operate a small Hawaiian fern propagation research nursery. Its mission is to help people appreciate the importance of ferns in the Hawaiian forest ecosystem and in Hawaiian culture, to encourage Hawaiian fern propagation for forest repair and for landscaping, and to urge protection of remaining Hawaiian native forest. And I've been doing this for 26 years, including the long learning curve. And in all this time, the Hawaiian ferns are still not readily available. So I am issuing a special call for nurseries to get involved in this work, but also home growers, because the more ferns we have in people's yards, the more we can build appreciation for protecting the habitat where they still naturally grow. Okay, so there are some people who have been very helpful to me, and I want to acknowledge them now. It is not advancing. Go harder. There we go. Okay. Gregory Koob was my early mentor. He founded the Lion Arboretum Micropropagation Lab, also helped me learn the names of the ferns. Dr. Yonio Sagawa in horticulture was my horticulture professor when I went back to school to get a horticulture degree. He provided mentoring and lab space for many years. Kapua Cavello of the Army Natural Resources Program on Oahu also helped me learn to identify the ferns, and her team took me to places I never could have gotten on my own. Nellie Sugii, also at Lion, shared both fern micropropagation expertise and lab space and was very supportive. And Tom Ranker is a world-recognized fern systematist, and you'll have to look up that word. When he was teaching at UH Manoa, he let me sit in on his graduate level fern class. And through Tom and his graduate students and their research and papers, I have learned that there is so much that academic study can add to what we know about the Hawaiian ferns. And most of all, and above all, I am grateful to Dan Palmer, Dr. Dan Palmer, whose book made it possible for so many more people to get to know the Hawaiian ferns. So with Dan over my shoulder, let's go over a couple of basics. Everybody knows, what is a fern? A fern is a non-flowering vascular plant. It doesn't have flowers, fruits, and seeds. It reproduces mainly by spores, but some have vegetative ways of propagating too. People who study ferns also study what used to be called fern allies. One that might be familiar to you is Selaginella, and there's another one, Vivaiole. But in the 1980s, with the advent of DNA investigations, it was discovered that the fern allies and the ferns were not closely related in evolutionary history. They were millions of years apart. So they changed that name. The fern allies are now known as lycophytes. So a lycophyte is also a non-flowering vascular plant that reproduces by means of spores. Worldwide, there are about 13,000 fern and lycophyte taxa. Hawaii has about 185. Of these, about 76% are endemic, meaning they grow nowhere else in the world. So you notice I'm saying about a lot. That's because the taxonomists are always discovering new things about the relationships among plants. So ferns are iconic in nature programs about Hawaii, but most visitors never see a fern, a Hawaiian fern. And I would bet most residents never see a Hawaiian fern. That is because the Hawaiian ferns are usually not available in garden shops, which is a real missed opportunity to get them into people's yards and to build support for taking care of their remaining habitat. And you have to be a hardy hiker to get up to elevations where ferns in any number naturally grow. Most of the slides you're about to see of fern understories are taken at elevations above 1,000 feet. So it might be a surprise that ferns have been extremely important in Hawaiian ecosystem evolution. So now we are going to talk about that to understand why we need to include ferns in forest restoration and landscaping work, and why we need more propagators to get that done. And then we will look closely at 8 fern species that could be starter species for these projects. Does that sound good to you? Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, okay, thank you, Alberto. So isolated Hawaii has few native tree species compared to tropical forests elsewhere, but proportionally many ferns. 1 in 6 native Hawaiian vascular plants is a fern or lycophyte. Deep in the past, these few native tree species and their fern understories became a finely tuned, self-perpetuating ecosystem. It repeated itself on each new island. It provided each island's water supply. It is responsible for Hawaii's famous Is it me? I'm having a little, okay, thank you. It's responsible for Hawaii's famous native bird diversity. One more. It fostered the plant diversity that underlies the material culture of the native Hawaiian people. Many Hawaiian ferns have known Hawaiian names. Some ferns are symbols of deities. Many have other ceremonial, ornamental, practical, or medicinal uses. Now, next. Ecologist Dieter Müller-Dumbois studies tell us that even today, the earliest plant assemblage on new volcanic surfaces follows the pattern of evolution from the beginning of plant life in Hawaii. Several years after a flow cools, you see the lichens, followed by the mosses and the ferns, and then next. So most Hawaiian flowering plants evolved along with a fern understory. Looking at our degraded low elevation forests today, one would not think this. But the writings of early visitors tell us there were once many more ferns. One of my favorite testaments comes in the form of this book by Isabella Bird, 6 months in the Sandwich Islands. Isabella was a Scottish woman. In the late 1800s, her doctor prescribed a voyage for her health. So she voyaged through the Pacific, but her ship broke down and she was stranded in Hawaii for 6 months. And she didn't just sit around sipping tea with the missionary ladies. She went out. She went to the tallest mountain. She went to the volcano. She went all over the place. And she wrote about what she saw in the form of letters to her sister back in Scotland. And that's what this book is. And I started noticing she was mentioning ferns a lot. And so I counted. And in 300 pages, she mentioned ferns 75 times, which means on average, once every 4 pages, they were coming to her attention. Not that she knew which species they were or identified them, but just that they were an aspect of the environment. Another testimonial comes from ecologist Vaughn McCaughey, who did surveys in the islands in 1920. He observed, next slide, please. He observed, you have this subtropical wet forest that clings to these steep slopes, groves of small trees and scanty shrubby undergrowth forming an unbroken mantle. He called it a tapestry forest. Even to sea level along the Hamakua coast, he said there were signs that other areas, then arid in 1920, had once been covered by this tapestry rainforest before they were ravaged by cattle and goats. McCaughey listed 79 flowering plants and 42 fern species typical of the tapestry groves. So ferns made up more than half the mix. Next, please. This is a zoom to this is what it looks like up in that tapestry forest. If you're on one of those ridges, this is what it looks like. You can see some invasive plants there, but still many ferns. And it's rather exciting that we have this much left, actually. Okay, next, please. So what is going on in this fern understory? The fern understory helps to hold the thin volcanic soils on those ridges. It keeps the soil from drying out. It directs rainwater to the roots of the canopy trees and shrubs. An intact fern understory maintains humidity on the forest floor. This helps the survival of all species. Decomposing fern leaves, first as mulch and then as compost, and then as soil, power the nutrient cycle. Several studies have shown that fern leaves can contribute proportionally more nutrients to the soil than does the leaf litter of flowering plants. The fern understory also is the habitat for invertebrates. Next, please. In addition, some ferns are keystone species. Outstanding among the forest builders are the species of hapu'u, our native tree fern, and ohia lehua, our dominant native tree. Next, please. Both as standing plants and fallen logs, these two, working together, provide nurseries for the seeds and spores of other species. Together, they have been essential to the natural regeneration of Hawaiian mesic to wet forests. Next, please. This is a hapu'u log that has been colonized by a number of other species. Next, please. And this is an upright hapu'u log that's in the process of being colonized. Next, please. The placeholder fern uluhe is another keystone species. In areas without tree canopy, it keeps the soil from drying out, adds biomass, discourages weeds, and influences natural forest succession. Next, please. But island plants cannot withstand competition from plants and animals that evolved on continents. An ongoing alien plant and animal invasion continues to disrupt natural forest succession in Hawaii. Next, please. All Hawaii is indebted to the conservation agencies and volunteers who have been at work for decades to repair the damage. Many areas of native forest are now fenced. This makes it possible to restore the fern understory. This makes it possible to put back native flowering plants in those fenced areas. This is a picture from Manoa Cliff. The Manoa Cliff Restoration Project is a poster child for these efforts. Volunteers began with fencing 6 acres up on Pu'u'ohia, also known as Tantalus. Every Sunday for the past 17 years, these people have been going up there to pull out invasives and plant natives. Among many other achievements, they have practically restored the fern understory. You can see this work for yourself. The Manoa Cliff Trail goes right through the project with gates on either side. You can hike up there and you can become a volunteer to help them out. Next, please. This is one of the Army Natural Resource Program on Oahu's many projects. This is Palikea. It is a 23-acre fenced area at Palikea in the Waianae Mountains. With the pigs fenced out, the fern understory has come back. The little pink flags show where they are also putting back native flowering plants. And just as an aside, it might be surprising that the U.S. Army in Hawaii is Hawaii's best funded conservation organization. This results from the court order that led to the Makua Mitigation Plan. It addresses the impacts of military live fire exercises in Makua Valley. There are about 50 civilian Army botanists and technicians that go out into the mountains in small teams every day. No matter what the weather, they are out there removing invasive plants and animals and protecting native species on lands under Army control. Next, please. This has to be the mother of all fences. You can see how it goes. This is Ohikilolo Ridge. This is a 12-mile long fence that goes from the summit of the Waianae Mountains all the way to the coast. On the barren side is Makua Valley, where the goats have pretty much eliminated the vegetation. And on the protected side is Makawa. Is that right? Makua and Makaha, sorry. Makaha is the protected side. So thank you, Army. Stay here for a minute. But while there are fenced areas, another constraint against using ferns for forest repair remains. The Hawaiian ferns are not readily available. To change that, Hawaii needs more nursery-based propagators assigned mainly to fern propagation and volunteers to assist them. This is because propagating ferns takes focus, it takes attention, it takes persistence. Next, please. With which ferns would we begin? Based on nursery and field experience, the following common Hawaiian fern species are suggested. The reasons are they occur naturally on all the Hawaiian islands. They are either colony-forming ferns or medium to large ferns that can shade out weeds, and they are fairly easy to propagate and grow. Next, please. So this is Hapu'u, the mother of the forest, keystone species. The plant in the pot is only 2.5 years old, and it is already 5 feet high and about 5 feet wide and quite ready to take up its duties in the forest. People think of Hapu'u as very slow growing, and indeed it is very slow to grow its trunk. The trunk grows at the rate of about 1 to 2 inches a year. But even as a young plant, it can do its duty. This one was propagated from spores in the laboratory under sterile conditions. Next, please. This is Laukahi. It's another fern with a central rhizome rather than a creeping rhizome, both Hapu'u and Laukahi. I need to look at my slides as I talk. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay. They're going to see my neck.
Well,
Okay, there. All right, so Lāʻau is one of the most cooperative endemic Hawaiian ferns that most people have never heard of. It is so easy. You just, as I mentioned, it has a central rhizome, so it cannot be divided. Like hapu'u, it cannot be divided, has to be propagated from spores. But if you put a fertile plant in a catch tray, a tray of old potting mix, it will drop its spores there and they will come up as you can, let me try this pointer. There, no, yeah, there. See the little sporelings? They came up, it took about 2 years to get, for all of those sporelings to grow to 4-inch pot size and to be moved on to other homes. This is a picture of Lāʻau at Lion Arboretum with Masuri weight. I want to talk a bit, because we're talking about propagation from spores. Next, please. It doesn't have to be in a laboratory. This is my collaborator and helper, Janetta Knapp. She has pretty much taken over the propagation from spores for Lāʻau Hawaiʻi, my nursery, and she does it on her lanai and kaimuki. You can see it's a simple setup, but oh my, it's a lot of work. So Janetta has shared her protocols with us, and Alberto is going to circulate a handout that tells exactly how she does what she does. Next, please. Here's another propagation from spores setup. This is the Army Natural Resources Program on Oahu. It's not sterile conditions, but it is a clean room, and it has advantages over Janetta's setup in that it's air conditioned, and the light duration can be controlled. They can provide 14 hours of light a day. And the Army is turning out thousands of ferns that they're putting back in their restoration areas. But again, it's not a laboratory, and it's not sterile conditions. It's kitchen cleanliness. Next, please. And here is another way to propagate from spores. You just line up some fertile plants. These are polypili, and line up some trays with old potting mix and just wait and see what happens. And so this is the way I do it at my nursery. So you've seen 3 ways to propagate ferns from spores. Under sterile conditions in the laboratory, under kitchen cleanliness conditions, and let them do it themselves. And everyone should be doing this. Everyone should let them do it themselves while you're busy doing other things. Oh, next, please. This is polypili, which lends itself to all the methods of propagation. This is polypili at Manoa Cliff, and I used to micropropagate it at Lion Arboretum, and we were the first to introduce polypili from the Hawaiian gene pool for purchase, for commercial use. And now I do it through Janetta by spores and through division at my nursery. You can see here, this is a knife. It's actually a bread knife. To divide polypili, you just look for 2 growing points on either side and then just slice through the middle and you're good to go. Next, please. This is a relative of polypili. This is Pili launui, Microlepia speluncae. Microlepia speluncae also can be propagated by means of spores and can be divided, and it has this very interesting forking rhizome. And when the plant is big enough, you can slice right through the division and right through there, and both of those divisions will live. Now, Microlepia speluncae makes a beautiful specimen plant. All the landscapers that are watching should be aware of that. But it cannot be used for lei making because it wilts upon cutting. Next, please. This is Ho'io, our endemic native edible fern, Diplasium. So you can, back up in the corner, kind of blocked by me, is a picture of it in the forest. That's how big it gets. And it has this beautiful shape, and there's at mid elevations in Hawaii, especially on Molokai, it can be the dominant ground cover. This is not the one that's sold in markets as Ho'io. That's a non-native that was introduced around 1919. So it can be micropropagated, or it can be very slowly divided. It can be divided about once a year. The rhizome is creeping, but it creeps very slowly, and it's very slow to generate a new plant. But this is a culturally important fern, and we should be growing it, both for its cultural value and to put it back in the forest. Next, please. This is Diparia prolifera. Its Hawaiian name has been lost, but we know it had one because Hawaiians were very astute observers of their natural surroundings. And this fern has the unique feature that it produces keiki, baby ferns, near the tips of its fronds. So this is a cameo. So I can show this later. I suppose I should show it later.
Here?
Yes.
Yeah, keep it later.
Okay, I'll show. Okay, so it's one of my favorite ferns because it can be propagated in one of three ways. It makes spores like other ferns. It has these keiki at the tips of its rhizome, its leaves, and it also proliferates at the rhizome. So you can divide like this. It's surprisingly woody. So to divide this fern, I use a reciprocating saw. Surprisingly woody. Okay, next, please. This is neke. This fern is naturally occurring in freshwater wetlands, but it does just fine in a wet area with regular watering or irrigation. And it's another colony-forming fern that can be grown from the rhizomes and also by means of catch trays. Very good restoration fern because it's a colony-forming fern. Next, please. And last, but certainly not least, this is Ni'ani'au. People might know it as kupu kupu. Kupu kupu is a generic Hawaiian term for all sword ferns, native and non-native. But this is a native fern. It has its own name, and I like to use the native name to set it apart from both the invasive ones and the one other native. So Ni'ani'au. This is another one that is, this is very easy to grow, easy to propagate by division. And next slide, please. You can put it in the middle of a tray and let its rhizomes grow new little ferns, and then you can harvest those new little ferns and pot them up. Or you can take the whole tray like a mat and put the whole mat in the forest, so you have an instant colony.
It's like fern saw.
Yes, yes. So, okay, let's see, where are we now? Oh, yes. And you probably, if this looks suspiciously like Boston fern to you, that's because it is, but it's endemic, it's an indigenous native because it got to Hawaii by itself. Are we clear on what is a native plant? A native plant is one that got to Hawaii all by itself without human help. usually by means of birds or by on the wind, very seldom by the ocean. So a native plant is one that got here without human help. Then we have two kinds. There's the indigenous kind. It got to Hawaii without human help. It also got to other places without human help. So for example, naupaka, you find it on all the Pacific Islands. Ni'ani'au is an indigenous native. It got here by itself, but it's also found elsewhere. Then the other kind is endemic natives. Endemic natives are ones that got to Hawaii without human help, but then they evolved into forms found nowhere else on planet Earth. So because this fern got here without human help, it is native, and we grow it from the Hawaiian gene pool. Okay, so let's see. All right, I want to conclude with, next slide, please. Oh, yes, I don't want to conclude just yet. Here are some first principles for Hawaiian fern growers. So you ask, where does this fern naturally grow? And if you're curious, Dan's book has a couple lines about habitat. In each fern species description, he includes a few lines about habitat. And there are no books on fern horticulture, Hawaiian fern horticulture. So it's those few lines from which I have taken hints and tried to replicate the conditions under which these ferns would grow. So you can check there, what habitat does it like? But in general, most Hawaiian ferns are understory plants. They need protection from the afternoon sun. They like high light usually, but not direct sun. And this can vary. Some species can take higher light than others. Some can take morning sun, and some species actually do grow in full sun. And so you can look in Dan's book and find out. And in fact, I should have mentioned Neke is one of the few species that will grow in full sun as long as it has wet feet. So most ferns, all ferns, have shallow fibrous root systems. They don't reach down with a taproot type thing like flowering plants. The roots are very close to the surface. That's why the soil surface must be evenly moist. For example, if you say you have a hibiscus plant on your lanai and you come home and it's wilted and you water it and it perks right up. Fern fronds will not do that. Their vascular system is not adapted to that. If a fern frond wilts, it's usually a goner, but you can keep watering the plant and maybe it will send up new ones. But this illustrates why you must have even moisture. And then to have even moisture, but not create soggy conditions that would rot the roots, you have to have fast drainage. So those are the principles for growing ferns, and anyone can grow ferns, Hawaiian or otherwise, if you respect those principles. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, okay. I wanted to have a fern understory, but that's okay. All right. So I want to conclude by reflecting on some words from famous Harvard biodiversity specialist E.O. Wilson. When he was asked, why does species extinction matter? He replied, the more species you take out of an ecosystem, the less stable it becomes. So every time you have a catastrophic event, the less likely it becomes that all of the remaining species will come back all the way. Next, please. So there it is. The fern understory is a species complex that historically was essential in Hawaiian forest function, but it has been taken out of much remaining native forest. Protecting or restoring habitat for all the native plants, birds, insects, and cultural practitioners that depend on it will always be an uphill battle. But without the fern understory, it is harder than it needs to be. I want to thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Katie. All right, now we have time for questions and answers.
Yes, we do.
Discussion. So I'll first ask people here in the room just for management purpose. Does anybody here have a question?
My home is similar in climate to this area, and which is hot and dry. But sometimes in the summer we don't get rain, so that could be a month. And it's hot. So I have some like to grow them more and maybe try other species, but or they. Well, do you have recommendations on culture?
Well, use those first principles and create a habitat. And it can be done because we take the plants that are surplus to the research to the Lion Arboretum plant sales in the spring and fall. And I'm always surprised. People tell me, I live in Eva Beach and I'm growing these. Or I live in Makaha and I'm growing these. So you can do it, but you have to create the habitat for them. The protection from the afternoon sun, the even moisture, and the fast drainage. And you cannot go on vacation and leave them unless you have automatic irrigation. Is that, yeah. Yes.
Fern, I don't know the name, it just appeared my patches. So sure, should I pick them out? Or
Where do you live?
I don't know, but the area I live in overlook the bay there. It's really dry. I don't know how they get there in 2.5. Sometimes they still want to redo the plan and but I don't know where they come from.
Well, the air is full of fern spores. And as we mentioned, the continental plants they're the most aggressive. So it's likely they're not native. And, if they please you, keep them because you're not near the forest. There's not the theoretical possibility that they could be invasive species in that sense. So if they please you, keep them. If you were growing strictly native plant yard, you would want to remove them, perhaps.
We had a question in the online Zoom. The question was, do any of these ferns that you spoke about grow well next to the ocean near salt water?
Yeah, I'm afraid not. We don't find ferns near the ocean. They're mostly understory plants, so they're just not there. But there are lots of beautiful native Hawaiian flowering plants that will grow there. If you were persistent, perhaps on the side of your house that doesn't face the ocean, you could grow ferns in a raised bed. Or maybe you have a lanai or some kind of shaded area. You could certainly grow them in pots there as long as they're protected from that salt air.
Okay, so if you want to try, we need to keep moisture consistent.
Yes.
So you need some sort of irrigation or watering system that keeps the roots moist, always, and protect them from salt spray.
Yes.
So they need to be sheltered somehow.
Yes.
You probably need to amend the soil or even change the growing media to have a substrate with a lot of organic matter, right? That's why.
Yes. It's unlikely that the ground is suitable. Probably have to have pots or raised beds. Yes.
Thank you. Another question, what is recommended irrigation system? Something that provides the moisture, right?
Yes.
So drip irrigation, I see a lot of times in landscape settings, for example, people using drip irrigation. So that's probably not the most suitable for ferns, right? Because drip irrigation has point degree, and the air stays dry, and that the ferns benefit from the moisture in the air as well, right?
This is a misconception, actually. In Hawaii, you don't have to worry about moisture for the leaves. We have enough humidity. And in fact, if you do wet the foliage, you encourage fungus growth to come in. I try never to wet the foliage or the rhizomes. But and if you have a hose, a drip irrigation, I do use drip irrigation. I have a hose that encircles the plant in the pot. And drip irrigation is good because it doesn't spray onto the foliage.
Drip irrigation is good, but you need to make sure you have very even distribution.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you. Yes.
Is there a specific distance between meters? I know that it varies by.
Yes.
But do you have a standard that you use?
No, I don't. I just try to make sure the whole pot is moist. I don't grow ferns in the ground because it's extra challenging to do that. So I don't have much experience with ferns in the ground, but I like to listen to people who do. So please let me know what your experience is.
Maybe a soaker foliage?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Question from the online. Do ferns need acidic or alkaline pH levels to thrive, or does it depend on fern type?
It depends on the fern type. Most ferns enjoy a pH of 6, which is close to neutral. Is that right? Close to neutral. Most ferns, you don't have to worry about that. There are very few that are calciphiles. They like soil that is rich in calcium, I guess, like coral. But we don't grow those. Those are hard to grow, so we don't typically grow those. But if you want to, and I don't have a list of them right now.
Okay. So there is some preference.
Mm-hmm. There are a few species that have a distinct preference, but as you said, most of them prefer organic soil.
Just lightly acidic.
Yes.
Should we fertilize ferns? Do you fertilize ferns?
Yes. Ferns, it's often said that ferns don't need fertilizer, but they definitely do benefit from some fertilizer. The general guideline is to fertilize at half the rate. Follow the package instructions as to the frequency, but use half the recommended amount.
Okay.
So, and I use a slow release fertilizer that is supposed to be used every 3 months. And so I use half the recommended amount every 3 months.
Okay. Is there a telltale sign that a fern is not native? Australian tree fern is sort of easy, but Lāʻau Hawaiʻi has some imitators that are hard to tell.
Yes, that is an excellent observation, and I'm prepared to answer that question. I just need to go get my laminates here.
Okay. Can we turn the lights on now?
Yes.
Oh, you have.
I use Nutricoat 1868. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So how will we So,
Let me stop sharing my screen.
all right, I don't know where to hold them. Oh, you hold them for this camera here? Oh, very good. She's an expert. Okay, all right, so Palapalai is an indigenous native plant, and it was recently discovered that it's not Microlepia strigosa. It is another species, Microlepia setosa. And here's the difference. So this is the native one, Microlepia setosa. And you can see when they're side by side that there's quite a difference.
So the one on the right, the fuller one, is the native one.
Is the native one, that is setosa. This is strigosa.
Okay.
This, sorry.
No, you already had it.
Oh, yeah.
If I try to
But you-
type it, can you correct me if I?
Sure.
So the native species is the
Is Microlepia setosa.
Microlepia setosa with C
Setosa.
O S A, like that.
Yes,
Microlepia.
right. And the strigosa name belongs to this fern,
Okay.
the non-native one. Fortunately, the non-native one hasn't been found in the forest yet.
Strigosa.
But if you want to see it, the fern, the palapalai that is, well, we can't call it palapalai because it's not native. We can call it hay-scented fern. The hay-scented fern is up at Lion Arboretum on the walk to the bathroom. That's where you see it. Yeah,
The native is on the road.
yes. Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah,
You think that the wheel fern that's sold in the market is not native?
yes.
So what species is that? What's the
That-
delivery from the big one? For example,
Yeah.
that's the native species.
Right, it's a relative of the native one. They're both genus Diclasium, but that non-native one is Esculentum. I can see, it's kind of interesting. Let's see.
So it's the wheel on the big island, right on the big island.
Uh-huh.
They sell it at the open market.
It's the non-native one because the native one is it's so slow to grow. If it occurs naturally and forms a forest understory, that's where the Hawaiians could harvest it and it wouldn't set it back.
I have these pictures from Chuck Chimera, because Chuck Chimera,
Yes,
he just submitted an article to the Lynch newsletter about the two years, the native and the introduced.
oh, good.
So this is his picture on the native
Uh-huh.
one, and this is the introduced.
Very good. Very good. So the key difference, one of them, is the top of the mature frond suddenly changes in form like this. So here's the native one.
For you,
Hoyo.
she had that one to show the difference in the spore.
Uh-huh.
But with this, the native, they introduced.
Uh-huh. Their spores will be similar because they're the same genus. And
Sorry, I'm trying to get it at the
But
camera.
he mentioned the arrangement.
uh-huh.
Yeah, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful?
Sorry, let me put it back in my.
So you would harvest this much of it, just like the one that's in the market. Am I in the right?
No, no.
So the chips you're saying,
I saw that here.
the chips you're saying are, they change.
Yes, the top of the frond. Notice how it's,
Even the leaf structure is different. actually.
yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. Yeah. So instead of this form, you would have it suddenly switching from 2 pinnate to 1 pinnate at the top.
Should I go back to the picture? Alberto? More or less there.
So this is the introduced, this is the native, this is the introduced.
Are the Zoom folks still with us?
Yes,
Okay,
this is the, yeah. I don't wanna put, yeah. This is the privilege of being here.
okay, let me read to you about,
Once this article is, sorry,
yeah.
is published, which it should be first week of July,
Uh-huh.
I will send to the people that signed up that have the use. Because the actual article has not been published yet.
Uh-huh.
With those pictures.
That'll be very helpful to them, I think. Okay, so Diclasium esculentum, the non-native, usually found in large, untidy, straggly stands in shady valleys with wet, swampy soils, often along streams at lower elevations on all major islands, except Molokai, where it may be present but remains undocumented. This commonly eaten fern from Southeast Asia and the Pacific was probably purposely introduced as a garden vegetable and was first collected on Kauai in 1910. So it was first found in Hawaii in 1910. And throughout the Pacific, it's known as paka. Some people call it warabi, but warabi is no, water-bee is not present in Hawaii. It looks similar, but according to Dan Palmer, water-bee is not present in Hawaii. So that non-native ho'io, which we shouldn't call ho'io, is paka.
Is that the one that goes on the Ricordi and, no, my son-in-law, he's from Maine. He doesn't eat lobsters, but his favorite thing to do is spit on that. I never heard of that one. It's that, it's bird shoots.
Yes,
Is that the non-native?
yes, most probably.
But you could eat the native.
Yes, you could, but it's so slow growing. Every time
You
you,
don't want to eat it.
yeah, that'll be one less frond, one less leaf. So, yes.
See, we need to eat the non-native when we get it.
Well,
Just like a
actually,
rhinoceros beetle, right? It's delicious.
Yeah,
Please.
the non-native one is, it has redeeming social value because you can eat it. And it's not that invasive. It doesn't go into the forest. It sticks to the streams, the wet areas. Yeah.
cool. What about the elevation? Will the introduced one grow at the same elevation as the?
I have seen it. Usually it's mid to lower elevation, but I've seen it in the volcano area. And yeah,
Okay,
as a planted plant, I don't think it would go up there by itself.
okay. Next question. I think you already covered. How much of the fern do you need to propagate it? You depend on the species.
How much of the fern?
Yeah, do you need to propagate it? Like how big it needs to be or?
Oh,
I think it's.
well, if you're going to propagate it by division, which I think you may be thinking of, make sure there are multiple growing points. And then you can slice between them. We can show you with this polypod. There's multiple growing points. The little fiddle
That's
heads.
better, yeah. So you would like slice right through the middle, having growing points on both sides of your divided root ball. And in a previous presentation, you mentioned that you want to keep as much as possible of the shallow root system, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes. Ferns do not like to have their roots disturbed. So in general, you try not to disturb the roots.
things. Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm so glad you're here.
So if people are transplanting, for example, from the ground, it's not just about taking a runner. You need to take the roots with them.
Yes.
You need to kind of carve the ground around
You
them
do.
to bring everything
Yes, some people may be confused between roots and rhizome. Here's this is from Dan Palmer's book. This is a wonderful book. He wrote it for both the novice and the professional fern grower. So it's got the technical language about the species identification, and it's got plain English descriptions of the structure and so forth. So this is his illustration of the different fern rhizomes. So we were talking about one that is kind of trunk-like. You cannot divide that. But a creeping rhizome usually will put up little ferns along its length, and you can divide between those, and that's what Palapalai is doing. This is the rhizome of Ho'io. It's called a decumbent rhizome. It just goes so slowly. And this is the rhizome of Ni'ani'au, and it sends out these little rhizomes to from which new ferns grow. So what was the question?
How much you need
How much
of the fern to propagate it, but I think it will depend on the fern, right?
Yes.
The species.
Yeah.
Another question related to it, it's kind of sharing experience and question. I have a 15-year-old Big Island hapu. It branched, so I cut the new growth and put it into the ground, and it took. So she took the branch and put it in the ground. The larger one is about 6 feet tall with fertilization, and the smaller one is 3 feet tall. To propagate, do I place trays of potting soil under the leaves?
I would definitely try it. Yes. My nursery is at sea level, and I haven't been able to propagate hapu from spores by catch trays intentionally, but once in a while one will pop up on its own.
Okay.
But did she live in Volcano? Is that where she is? Oh, it's from Volcano. Yeah.
She said it's a 15-year-old Big Island hapu.
Definitely try.
Try it.
Yes, it's a keystone species and extremely culturally important, and you should try to propagate it as best you can.
Sorry, is moa endemic species?
No, moa is indigenous. Moa has a fascinating story too. It used to be a fern ally, but with the investigation of DNA evidence, they found that its chloroplast DNA matches that of ferns. So now it's a fern. Yeah. And it's a 400 million year old plant that in all that time has not changed its structure or form. It grows under a variety of conditions. You know, it's quite an amazing
But
plant.
it's very particular, very cool.
Yes. Hard to propagate. If you dig it up and put it in a pot, it takes, in my experience, it takes about a year to recover. Don't throw it out. It will recover.
I have a question, maybe dumb question. Were there ferns during the dinosaurs? I forgot what is how many million old was the dinosaurs?
Yes. I think it was, and what was your question?
You know, the dinosaurs?
Yes,
Like the
I know them.
I don't know how many millions or billions years ago was that.
The dinosaurs, I think it was 66 million was the last.
Oh, so there were ferns.
There are very old ferns that predated the dinosaurs. Actually, hapu'u is one of those. But most modern ferns, most extant modern ferns came after the flowering plants. The theory is that they evolved in the shade of the flowering plants.
So if you have kids at home, you can tell them that you are growing the plants that were with the dinosaurs.
Yes.
And they will help you take care of your ferns.
Google says 66 to 252 million years ago is when the dinosaurs were.
What is older than the dinosaurs?
Pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moa is one old individual. It has no true leaves or roots. It's stem photosynthesizes.
Cool.
There's no root.
It just has those little rhizoids.
Next question. Is both Falafalai species, Setosa and Strugosa, so the native and the introduced species, are put together due to not being formed in time, the person that planted, will they end up hybridizing?
I do not know. I do not know. I hope not.
Huh? Oh, yeah. Are any ferns poisonous?
No, not any Hawaiian ferns, not any ferns that I know of, but you could check with Google.
Yeah. All right. Okay,
Is this what they're seeing?
yes.
Oh, dear.
No, that's fine. It's great.
Mostly seeing my neck.
Any more questions or curiosities? Don't be shy.
The well draining mix
Uh-huh.
that you have to keep putting more water.
Yes.
You don't want it to be like cocoa coir.
Oh, yes, I use coir because peat is not sustainable. I use coir. I use about 2 parts coir to 1 part perlite to create a fast draining mix. I use 2 parts coir to 1 part perlite to create a fast draining potting mix.
So 1 part core, 2 parts perlite.
The other way around.
2 parts core, 1 part perlite.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But you can try different things. Now, for example, some ferns prefer a wetter habitat, like Ho'io and Deparia prolifera both prefer a wetter habitat. So I use a little less perlite in the mix for those.
So for a hotter, drier area, you can change.
I wouldn't. In fact, I might reduce the perlite in the hotter, drier area to help keep the soil moist because there's going to be more evaporation. You'll be doing your own research. Let me know, what results you get. You will figure out what it takes to create a medium that remains moist in your setting.
So for the medium, you don't add organic matter at all?
The core is that organic.
Oh,
Yes.
Cocoa core.
Yeah.
That leads to this question that maybe you obtain purchase ferns from your nursery to propagate, or what are the other sources for buying? How can with legitimate, like reliable native, or not like Falafalai that is not the actual native, Falafalai or Kuchukuku that is not the actual native.
And the question was where to purchase them?
Where to purchase that?
Go to Huiku Baoliola, the native plant nursery in Kaneohe. They're the only ones that I know of that is very strict about that.
Yeah. And do you sell?
I do sell ferns that are surplus to the research, but very few available. Just people can certainly contact me and I'll try to save the next available one.
That's Lāʻau Hawaiʻi.
Correct. Yes.
Cool. I have a question. So you mentioned like for April to share her results
Yes.
with you. What are the places or circles or forums where people share information about ferns that you think?
I don't know of any. That's something we could use. We could certainly use. I have all this literature to go with the ferns, and I put that out at the Lion Arboretum plant sale. And I have repeat customers. And I think when when I first started selling ferns at the Lion sales, I think it was in 2013, people would just walk right by because they didn't know what they were looking at. They didn't appreciate it. But now people come first to my setup, and sometimes the tables are almost empty by 10 a.m. But I think it's been a gradual education process, and I think the literature has helped.
Thanks, Kate, for doing that.
Is there any specific website that we can go to or?
There isn't. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I wish there should be.
But you have an email.
Yes, yes. My email address, I have two. There's a simple one that's letter K LYNCH at lava.net. And then there's the other one, it's hifernproject@gmail. HIFERNPROJECT@gmail. And I'm more than happy to answer questions and take requests and just keep.
Yeah, but is that correct? The hawaiifernproject.com?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yeah, and the name of the nursery.
Hui Kui Maoli Ola.
I've heard though sometimes they don't always give it, but they're selling. Yeah, I got one from them and it was not.
What species?
Was falafel. And
Really?
it's not good. It's the one I got.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
I don't know if the batch was where we got this batch from, but yeah, not native.
Well, it is possible, they have so much demand for it that I and a few other people, I guess, can't really keep them stocked. So they do order polypoli and plug trays from Florida, I think. And they use that in situations where it doesn't matter. But in situations, they love to have my polypoli and they save it and they propagate from it to multiply so that they have it for people in situations where having the native one is important.
So maybe depending on the client, the
Yes,
purpose.
so
Okay, I have a question for Alberto. Yeah, Palapala and the Ricordi is native.
I think it's the one that came from the commercial nursery stock that is probably not native.
Yeah.
The ones that we buy last year.
yes, probably
That's
not.
not
I think we could.
Because I noticed that the native one, for example, I got some native ones from Waimea Valley that had the track of it. And even the new sprouts, like new growth, they are long shoots. But that one that we propagated, they are tight and compact. They're more like soft. It looks, can't tell that it's different. Yeah.
Did you buy yours directly from the nursery or from?
They're the ones that they send the nursery, so the nurseries go and send out their batches to city mail and stuff like that. That's where.
Yeah.
Or maybe the store added some.
No, it has the stickers and everything as well, so that's how you know it's really good. Yeah. After I found out they were not native, I've not said anything. But yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. So we can check. So besides that, like a commercial nursery, which is a private conversation, I think we should be recording and putting that. I'll cut that for the recording. Is there any?
To the native discussion.
Yeah.
In your situation, you should go back to your proposal and
Yeah.
directly.
Yeah.
You know what, rather than bring it up in a forum like this, we cannot do anything. We'll edit this all out.
Yeah. So is there any questions or
Any fossil ferns?
Fossil ferns, well, moa, definitely a fossil fern. Well, let's see, what are some of the older ones?
But I mean, like, specimen for Salt Lake, but it follows the pressures of the leader.
Uh-huh. And what is your question?
Are there any known specimen fossil ferns from Iowa?
From the islands? I don't know. That's a good question. I'll try to find the answer. Yes.
Bean stuff. I know you. Your show me stuff, so 19 and 20.
In the distant past, yes.
So you keep using it as a month.
Yes, exactly. In the 90s.
So it's
Early
being
2000. Yes. Well, it's their successors. So ferns, actually, they are perennial, but I found they don't actually live forever. But, you know, they have keiki and then those grow and those grow. So, yeah. Yes.
What is your favorite fern?
Hapu'u. Mhm. Because it's so important in the forest. Yes.
That.
Yeah. I didn't study up on that. It's hard to keep, now I can't even find my pen. It's hard to keep everything in mind, but I didn't study up on that. But yes, I used to know which ferns were very old and and the rest being the modern ones.
So someone asked again, how to determine what a native fern is, if it's endemic or indigenous, or if it's actually native. So the answer is species specific. There is no rule of thumb, no
Right,
absolute answer. You
right.
need to do your research.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Hawaii ferns, the ferns of fern of eyes is a good reference that they recommend.
Yes. And as a shortcut, you can email me and I can try to answer. And it's the same with your questions. If you'll email me, I'll get the answer for you. Yeah.
Are there any known pests to look out for when propagating native ferns?
Oh, yes. If in a nursery.
There's a block that attacks some of the fern. But ferns usually don't have like that.
There is a fern caterpillar if it finds your nursery. But it's very easy to eliminate by hand. You just go out at dusk and dawn for several days in a row and pick it off and perform a summary execution with the heel and then soon.
So fern caterpillar,
Yes,
are there any other pests?
yes, there are aphids will attack ferns and scale and mealybug. Well, and some ferns, amazingly, like the nianiau is pest-free. I never see anything on that. And the hapu'u is pest-free. Some ferns, in fact, most ferns, they have, let's see if I can remember this correctly now. They have a hormone-like substance that mimics the ecdysones that cause insects to molt. And they don't want to be caused to molt, so they will avoid ferns that have that.
And besides manual removal of caterpillars, is there anything that you have successfully used?
Yes, horticultural oil. Horticultural oil works on almost everything. If you have a bad infestation, you have to spray every 10 days for 3 cycles and then monthly to control. But you might, if you have a nursery where you have lots of ferns and things, you're more likely to have this trouble, but otherwise you can probably control by hand. But horticultural oils are great because they don't poison the insects, they smother them. It's a mechanical action of smothering them. So it's not toxic and it's very safe to use and works on everything. None of
the oil burn or fine?
No, it doesn't. Well, There are different concentrations now. The prescription that comes with it is 2.5 to 5 tablespoons per gallon. So for the ferns, I use between 2.5 and 3 tablespoons per gallon. I've never had any problem with burning. Yeah. Yeah. Right, and neem oil would work, any oil would work, but plain old horticultural oil should be the cheapest of those.
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
Great, thank
Any
you.
more questions? No? That,
I do want to add, everything that you said today is accurate, because all the things that you said is what I'm doing in my yard. And I have no I have completely. And my yard is interesting because it has different ecosystems in the yard.
Oh,
So depending on what the sun, you're saying sun, the afternoon sun, that's where it is the best. The morning a little bit, and then afternoon sun. It rains in the mountain areas and mine too. So it gets nice rain, and then in the evening it's a nice rain.
oh, lucky
Yeah,
you.
so
Yeah,
I really appreciate this because everything that you said is spot on.
fits with your experience.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
And I
great.
thank you very much because, sometimes you're out there thinking, well, what am I doing now?
Yeah,
yeah,
As long as the plant doesn't die.
Very good.
No, it doesn't get an afternoon. Yeah, so it's in a shady area and that. So, I kind of work with the sun
uh-huh.
in my yard. And the ferns, you're right, it's very particular. So where
Uh-huh.
it's there.
Yeah, so I like to think, it's easy sometimes to get discouraged, but then I remind myself, it's all research. It's all research. It's not, yeah, and that's why I love to hear from repeat customers at the plant sales. They tell me how their fern did that they bought the previous year. Sometimes it's mine died. Why did it die? But, which is impossible to determine, remotely. You have to see the conditions, but I learn a lot. Well, it depends on, how dead it is. How dead it is. So I can show you some particulars about these ferns now. So.
should we, I can close this now, right? Yes. Okay, so to the online folks, I want to thank you for staying on until now and your participation. I will send a follow-up email with resources that he provided and the references for the books that she mentioned and any additional information. And thank you. We will edit the video and have it available. And everyone that registered, either online or in person, will receive the follow-up email with additional information and availability of the report. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Alberto.
Hey. Okay, it's not being recorded. Yeah, and then we can even like this for it. But don't worry about this. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
no
you.
more Zoom.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for.
Can you show the plans now and the specifics of she was talking about? So is this, we are still having the official presentation.
Yeah.
Keep your voices down. Let's listen to Kate.
So here's the Lāʻau Hawaiʻi, and it grows. Typically, I have some photos here too. Typically, it grows about waist high, but I have a couple plants in the rear of my shade house where it's very dark, and they're this tall. But it's a wonderful fern. As I mentioned, it's the most cooperative endemic native fern that no one has ever heard of. And it throws its spores around and they come up in other pots And I harvest them like this, and grow them out, but this is what it looks like when it's small. And I want to show you some of them.
Oh, no.
Look at this pot, this is full of little squirrels. So that pot is about 25 feet away from the mother plant.
How old is that fern? How many years?
Oh, that fern,
Yeah.
this Hawaiian, now this is the
A native,
Hawaiian.
yeah, a native Hawaiian.
It was a pot road here in May of 2023.
Oh, a couple of years, 2 years.
Yeah,
And so the Kiki, it's not down. It's
that's right. It's over here. So I just wanted to show you how easy it is to grow this.
Lynch getting here. Or not the, they must take. That's the one that we probably. Yeah. But it's. Sorry. No, but they. What? For it. Yeah.
You're extension better.
Oh.
I'm not sure about it.
You have the one that says they sprout and the cakey on the leaves.
Yeah, from right. That's the.
See that one?
So this is a young person, so. It doesn't have to be big, like you got a little.
Oh, yeah.
This is. They had a teacher that was for her class.
And they must have.
But when it grows about 2 inches high, then I propagate it from the taping, because I think this fern is evolving away from propagating itself by means of spores, because I seldom see a spore. So anyway, you can propagate with the taping. When it gets to be about 2 inches tall, then you cut part of the mother fern off. If you cut just the keiki, it won't survive because it has no roots.
So you cut it way back.
Yes, way back here, and that seems enough to keep it going. So put that in a pot and cover everything with potting mix, so just the cake is sticking out. And keep it evenly moist, and it'll grow roots, and that's how I propagate this fern. Now, in nature, this gets bigger and bigger, and heavier and heavier, and by the mother goes to the ground. Right. But in the nursery, it's impossible to avoid moving it. So you would shift it and it would, have to start all over again. So it's better to just sever it and do it separately.
Is that the only fern that? Can you wear later? Like, stick that, you know how?
Yeah.
Begonias, they can make the leaf to, can you add a fern?
No, not that I know of. Yeah. Let me get out of the room, sorry.
I live in Boston. And I thought, oh, it should be fine because it's raining, right? And they love water. They, I guess, drowned or whatever. But I mean, I saw the water, going out of it. They were in the pot. But they didn't. That was funny. And I was so sad.
Sorry, don't.
Afraid of buying a certain.
So sorry.
No, this
They certainly would. That water for donating.
Rain, for about
I can't.
a few days, and I didn't dump the water.
She was focused on it.
Oh, they should be fine, because it was raining, yeah. And I had to change the body mix or anything, but So I did that, so there were really some Sweden. No, I did that. If I did as well. I died. Because, yeah, they everything. Don't like to sit there. Yeah. That's for it. Oh. But thank you for all. But I found
Goodbye, Zoom.
you know.
Bye Zoom. Bye Zoom.
Bye Zoom. Bye Zoom.
Say bye, William, to the Zoom.
I'll turn off, okay?
Yeah, you can turn off. Over there, he's waving. Bye, William.